Yeah, exactly.
I forget. I forgot what the character's name is, but it was from the first Spider-Man movie. You remember where, you know, I think it
Um,
was what was it?
I forgot.
I forgot, but you remember, right? The guy was working as a construction worker,
Yeah.
and they thought they were gonna get a lot of, they were gonna get like a lot of job offers to fix the city, but then, uh, I think Stark took over or like Shield took over, which cost them a lot of their jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like his job was wrongfully taken from him, so that's why he had this sort of hatred, which led him to be a villain, right? Or in the new one, Tony Stark taking credit for all of Mysterio's work, which caused him to be a villain.
Yeah.
So
I think what also makes a villain is like what they want out of it. If it's for something selfish, like if it's just for themselves or like for a small group of people, then that's what makes him a villain. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Like that's what made the two villains in Spider-Man really villains. It's like, what do you get out of doing this? It was like self-satisfaction.
Yeah, that's what makes him a villain.
Once they got that satisfaction, it was like, yeah, if that's all you're doing it for, then yeah, you are the villain. If he had done all that because to like show that like these people lost their jobs because of big corporations and stuff taking over, then guess what? Then that's where you start sympathizing with him, because look at the society we're in. A lot of times you see big corporations take over, people lose their jobs,
Yeah.
And people losing their jobs to machines nowadays. It's like, but because it was only for him, it was like, okay, yeah, that's selfish, bro. The rest of us feel that way, but you don't see none of us going out and doing this stuff,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I feel like, See, mine has a personal reasoning, but it can also be seen as a general reasoning. And that is, I have a lot of distrust with the government, I guess you could say. Because you know me, I'm not a political person. I don't really like politics. And for the most part, I think most politicians are corrupt, which can be shown through a lot of the decisions they make, a lot of the stuff behind the scenes and stuff,
Yeah.
And so, like, if you put me in, like, one of those type of settings, that's obviously going to be one of my reasons is, I would say, like, not through a violent matter, like, I'm not saying, like, oh, we ought to, in the setting, go after these, like, corrupt government officials and stuff.
Right.
I would more so be on the peaceful side of it, of, like, exposing them, like, showing, to society, like, look at the wrongs that are being committed by the people that are supposed to be the higher ups of society, that are controlling how society works,
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't be the type of villain that tries to implement his own because, again, I'm not perfect. No villain's motives are perfect,
Yeah.
And so, if anything, again, if I tried to implement my own system, that creates the selfishness in it, But I would be more so in the fact of here's how corrupt the system is. Here are all these corrupt people. Now, whatever society wants to do with that information, go on right ahead. But that's all I would do,
Yeah.
Which again, it's a personal reason, but it's also a general reason, targeting something as big as the government. But then also, I think about it, I'm like, could that be seen as a villain if I don't act upon it,
Yeah.
But I also think, you can get really interesting villain stories and arcs out of, like, again, like I said, the more personal reasons are where you get the better ones,
Yeah.
Especially, the ones that really make you think. Like, I'm trying to think of some examples, but, like, none are coming to mind. But, like, how you mentioned, where, like, let's say something happened and, like, the guy's family died.
Right.
Of course he's going to want, like, some type of, like, revenge for it, Who can fault him, His family died at the hands of something that was out of his control.
But then that would also make him look like a hero, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But no, but then you see him again, like we mentioned, the execution. Then he's seen as a villain because of how he's executing, his revenge, I guess you could say.
But I mean, yeah, that is true. But I mean, like, wouldn't you would do the same? Like in a video game aspect, let's say someone kills a loved one, you're gonna kill them back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in a video game aspect, yeah, that's typically the story.
In a video game, that's what typically happens.
But like also looking at it, again, why can you see them as the villain? Think about it. Your family died to something that was out of your control, right? But like, think about it. The way you can see them as the villain is, you got like looking at it and saying, you can kill whoever like accidentally did it, right? Like, let's say like a hero, like in the midst of a fight, or like I don't know if you ever seen Man of Steel, but it's kind of implied that like the villain killed like those people, right? While he was like staring down Superman.
Right.
It's like, let's say like in that situation, let's say the villain has someone hostage and the hero's trying to save them, but they aren't able to, right?
Right.
And that person's family, like a family member, like they lost that loved one, and so they start feeling hatred towards the hero for not doing anything in time. But you got to look at it this way, and this is why I say like you can empathize with them, right? You like and feel sympathy for them. But you see them become the villain because of the execution, and you look at it and you say, that person needs to come to terms with the fact that it was out of their control,
Yeah.
And if you getting revenge on that hero, what's it gonna solve? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't really solve anything. Think about it. It wouldn't bring your family back. It would, and again, it ends up being selfish because you're only satisfying your emotions and stuff. And then you kind of become what you hated. Because think about it. Heroes, for the most part, have families. Or they have loved ones. If you kill a hero, you just rob that person of what they robbed you of. Which I guess you could say is, it cancels everything out. Like, it's an equal effect, But at the same time, it's like, what? Does that not make you what they were then? And what you hated?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my thinking. I don't know. I heard that question and I was like, that's pretty interesting to think, And it also makes you kind of like get creative with it, Thinking like maybe not yourself, but like if you create characters, Think about, well, what would you like to see a character have as their sort of villain reasoning,
Right.
I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it's an interesting topic, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know how I would see myself being a villain with like a specific reason as to why I would do such a thing. And like in terms that my reason might be, might have some sympathy, but like the execution would be like bad.
Yeah, and again, that's what makes a villain.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, a villain usually wants to satisfy himself, through grievous ways. But like, if the way, if such a horrible way was also happened to them, why shouldn't that thing also happen back to to the cause,
Yeah, true. Do you want to hear the answer that person had given?
What was it?
So they were asked this like in a Q&A, and they said they don't think they would necessarily be a villain, but they also don't think they would be a hero. And it's not in the sense of a vigilante. It's in the sense that they said they would like to be like sort of like an information guide, where they're working as a freelancer for both villains and heroes.
It's like the middleman?
Yeah. Like there's a character in My Hero that wait, was it in My Hero? It might be in My Hero. I don't remember correctly. But it was basically, he would give information to heroes, but he would also give information to the villains, you know, and that's all he was. He was just an information person. He didn't do no crimes, he didn't do nothing. He just kind of tipped off both sides, you know?
Right.
Which is what that person was saying.
Make him?
Well,
Does
see,
that make him a bad guy? If he's helping the bad people and the good people?
Yeah, see, that's why I thought it was interesting to think about. That's why I thought their answer was interesting, because you really think about it, it's like, well, can you consider that villain? Because technically, you know, they're kind of helping out the villains by telling them, you know, oh, like, this is the location of this, or like, this is what's happening and stuff. And they're also like, but then, you know, you look at it, it's like, well, does them helping out the heroes balance out them helping out the villains?
Right.
The only way you can see it as, you know, not being evil is if they're purposely, you know, giving information to the villains just to help out the heroes, you know? Like, you know, gain information, you know, kind of like a double agent. But in the sense that person was saying, it was like, again, I think that's what really makes a good villain, is it was making you think, well, would that be considered a villain or not? You know? Because it's interesting to think about, because it's like, they're technically not doing the crimes, but they assisted in whatever went down, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought that was an interesting question for this podcast, especially on a very chill week.
Mm.
But I guess we should start wrapping up, shall we, Dominic?
We shall.
Alright. Any last words for the listeners? Hopefully at home.
For anybody listening who is trying to purchase a Sony Entertainment Console, PlayStation 5, I wish you luck. Because it's not going to be easy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I shall say to the people listening that I just hope you all are doing well. I hope you all are staying safe. And to just appreciate even the little things in life. Because you never know when those little things, or the things you never knew you appreciated or you didn't appreciate enough, will be taken away, you know?
Yeah.
It's what you always got to be worried about. And, you know, the last thing I'll say is make sure you tell the ones you love that you love them, you know, before it's all gone. So we'll close out here. Remember, the door is always open if anyone ever wants to join us on one of these episodes for the podcast. I've been your host, Jack.
I've been Dom.
And we want to thank you for joining us for another episode of the Rule 34 podcast. Remember, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.